thank y'all for coming. This morning, we're going to do a short press conference in reference to an incident that originated last week in the Girard Park area. This has been a multi-operation, as you can tell, with the agencies that are here. We'll be able to field some questions with the understanding that this is an ongoing investigation, so some of it we may or may not be able to comment on. Any questions that we may have? Miss, the FBI will be able to field those questions for you.
My name is Donald Bostic. I'm the supervisory special agent here in Lafayette. The individual that was arrested is named Devin Haywood. He's a 30-year-old individual who resides currently here in Lafayette. I'd like to say that the citizens of this community were well served by the collaboration and the teamwork that was displayed by all the agencies involved in this investigation. From its inception, as different agencies responded to the incidents last Wednesday, both at the attempted bank robbery as well as the hoax device that was located at Girard Park. This was a manpower intensive investigation, and it was very closely coordinated, and it was obviously a successful investigation which resulted in the arrest of Mr. Haywood yesterday evening. He currently stands charged by way of federal complaint with one count involving the placement of the hoax device in Girard Park and one count of the attempted bank robbery of Mid-South Bank on Moss Street. Additional charges are likely. The investigation continues at this point. More arrests may take place, and we are urging the public to contact your local police through Crime Stoppers or 1-800-CALL-FBI if they should have any additional information that may assist us in this ongoing investigation. Thank you.
Can you spell his name?
Devin, D-E-V-I-N, Haywood, H-A-Y-W-O-O-D.
His age again?
He is 30 years old.
Did he go to UL?
I have no information about that.
Do you know why he made the threat?
Because the investigation is ongoing and there are pending criminal charges, we won't be able to speak as to the specifics of Mr. Haywood or any of the facts involving the specific charges.
Do you expect more arrests to come about?
More arrests are possible, yes.
Can you offer any information about what led to his arrest?
I can only say that the investigation involved extensive interviews as well as physical evidence that led to the successful conclusion. So, not at this time, no. So,
Do we know if Devin Haywood has a criminal background or anything?
I can't speak to those details at this time. Okay. I'd like the state police, if they have any further comments. Before I turn it over to them, I would like to thank specifically the following agencies who participated in this: the United States Attorney's Office, the ATF, the United States Marshal's Office Task Force, the Lafayette Police Department, the Lafayette Sheriff's Office, the Acadiana Sheriff's Office, Scott PD, Baton Rouge PD, the Lafayette Fire Department, Lafayette Fire Inspector's Office, and the City Marshal. Don't want to forget the City Marshal as well. There were many agencies that were involved with numerous men from each agency that were committed to this. So it was very labor intensive, and it could not have been done without the collective cooperation of those agencies. So, thank you.
Yeah. As stated, the investigation is ongoing. The U.S. Attorney's Office is going to be looking at many avenues along with all the collaborating agencies here and of course, the FBI. So we're very restricted right now on the information that we can release about Mr. Haywood and about the investigation and how we actually came to to determine him as a suspect. As stated, we are looking at other investigative leads or maybe more arrests that are forthcoming. Today we'll primarily be able to talk about the actual evacuation of the campus, the things the events that occurred that day, the collaboration between all the agencies you see behind us here, and even more so, and the effective preparedness and everything that went into effectively and really doing a good job of evacuating that campus safely and efficiently, and making sure the citizens of not only the Lafayette area but also the visitors and the students of UL were safe also. Just prior to this event, we actually conducted a mock scenario drill where we went through a full-scale evacuation scenario and of the campus itself, going through different scenarios and different emergency preparedness scenarios. So that kind of preparedness really led to the success of last week's event and what happened here. So we have our UL representatives here who can talk about the resources that were spent that day, the number of agencies, the number of manpower that were utilized that day to bring the situation to a resolve. But as far as the investigation goes, we're really limited about the further investigative details about Mr. Hayward, about the investigation, about the course of the investigation. But all this information will be forthcoming. The U.S. Attorney's Office will be releasing a statement later today with the information, with the suspect's name and some more information in it. But it is a very active investigation. It's a lot of things that are being looked at here, a lot of different elements that are being put together. So, further questions that we do have about the actual day of the event and the evacuation preparedness, we can answer those.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Joey Sturm. I'm the Director of Public Safety and the Police Chief at UL Lafayette. As a State Police representative told you, we actually conducted a tabletop exercise with all of our agencies last year around this time. I think it was July 29th, for this very type of scenario that we had. And we had local, state, and federal agencies represented at that tabletop exercise. Plans were put in place last Wednesday. The campus was evacuated. There was an emergency notification system alert that went out. We had over 200 responders work this incident, and that involves the traffic perimeter, the actual search teams. I think we ended up with 12 search teams total, 9 bomb dogs from various agencies, and we thank all of them, to include Chittimacha and Tunica Biloxi. They also sent bomb dogs as well as our own bomb dog that we have on campus that we invested in a little over 2 years ago with Sergeant Mike LaSalle and Pepper. She was well worth the money that we spent on her before and certainly after. That also includes the investigative team as well that responded that day. Anybody have any questions?
Is there any costs that y'all have come up with, or how much?
Yes, ma'am. We are working on that cost. UL Lafayette is one of the largest employers in the city, and in addition, just to the overtime expenses that are related to law enforcement officers who were called out. I mean, numerous agencies had, not only UL Lafayette, but speak for the other agencies as well, had call-outs of their personnel to assist. As you can imagine, if UL Lafayette were a city, it'd be the 10th largest city in the state. So it takes manpower and a lot of resources to clear the campus and then start search teams. In addition to that, there was an emergency, what was declared as an emergency leave day. So you have all these employees who were given leave with pay that day. So that's a huge cost, not to mention the disruption of the academic environment, the numerous camps that were going on the campus. We had an orientation. That was day one of an orientation session. We had a lot going on the campus, even though it was a summer semester. It is a city. When you reopen, you don't just reopen for business the next day. The campus is cleared, and then the streets are opened, and people go back to living on the campus. It's a small community.
So no tally of the money?
Not yet, ma'am. That's going to take some time. I mean, the internal procedures for that, there's an account set up similar to a natural disaster or hurricane, so all those expenses can be tracked internally within the university, whether it be payroll, resources that were used, hydration supplies for officers, et cetera. And so that's going to be tallied up, but that's going to take some time. Payroll, I believe, just went in this past week. But there's a separate code, a separate account code that's set up for that. That's part of our emergency plans.
Can you give us kind of a timeline of the events that happened the day of the bomb threat, now that y'all have more information and an arrest has been made?
Specific to?
To the bomb threat and also the armed robbery that we're talking about.
Okay. In terms of anything related to the investigation, I'd have to refer to Special Agent in charge Bostic for that information. I can tell you that we received the bomb threat, as you all know, that came in through KATC3. We assessed that information. We actually sent officers to that television station and investigators as well. Part of the protocols for any bomb threat is that you make a determination as to what the threat was, what the specifics are. The decision to evacuate the campus was based on, in part, the hoax device actually being located in Girard Park and then being verified that we had a hoax device. At that point, the decision was made. But there are protocols that we follow. There's a decision tree, a threat matrix that we use to make that determination.
So y'all decided to evacuate based on finding the hoax device?
That in part.
What did it look like?
I'm sorry, ma'am, I can't speak to the device or that's part of the criminal investigation, and I would refer to the FBI. Anyone have any other questions of me? Okay. Again, I want to reiterate, and you'll hear this over and over, but the interagency cooperation is unbelievable. The tabletops that we do on occasion, and then certainly annually, they go a long way in helping with that. But the cooperation that we had amongst the agencies and as well as the investigators is just incredible, and it speaks to the professionalism that we have in law enforcement here in Acadiana. Thank you.
Any idea how many law enforcement people were involved?
Yes, ma'am. Over 200, a little over 200 responders.
Have y'all ever, in your experience, had to evacuate the university?
No, ma'am. No, this is the first time that campus has ever been evacuated to the degree that it was. In the past, there have been perimeters established and perhaps a building or two that have been evacuated in the past, but not to this degree. No, ma'am. But the plan worked. We'll assess. Of course, we do hot wash after action reviews, and we'll assess and we'll tweak our plans. Thank you.
If there are no other questions, yes.
Who actually made the arrest?
The arrest was made by the multi-agency task force that was working on the case. It involved FBI, the Sheriff's Office, the State Police, ATF, the Lafayette Police Department. We had a number of different agencies who had collaborated on the investigation when it began. And those agencies, the investigative side of that, because of course we divided up the duties, the investigative team that was working on the case since day one is the team that went in to make the arrest and take the individual into custody.
So where was he found when he was arrested?
He was found outside his residence, which is in Lafayette Parish,
Where is he being held?
St. Martin Parish Jail.
Why? From Lafayette? Is he from Lafayette?
No, he is not.
Why is he being held in St. Mark Parish?
That's where the federal government booked him. Could be they had room. Don't know.
Can you disclose what area he's from, what city, what town?
New Orleans. He's from New Orleans.
He was residing in Lafayette Parish.
Yes, he was.
Is it in connection to the CVS armed robbery that has been regulated?
No, we're still checking into that. Our local Lafayette PD is investigating that CVS incident, and we haven't made that connection. But there was a joint investigation on the Mid-South Bank and the bomb threat, only because they were just so close in proximity to each other.
What time separated them?
Well, you know, the 5:30, approximately 5:30, I think, is when the call was made to the television station, and you know, around 5:40 is when that subject began his plan for Mid-South Bank. So, you know, the fact that they were in such close proximity to each other was, you know, definitely of interest to the team working on both cases.
Okay, I haven't followed the armed robbery thing. Explain, what happened there?
That was an attempt at what's called a early bird robbery, where managers or employees going into work are taken outside the facility the perpetrator makes entry before the bank opens and does a robbery before the bank is actually open for business.
Was he successful?
No, it was an attempt. We want to thank all of you for coming a little later on this morning to U.S. Attorney's Office, since we are now going to pursue federal prosecution of this individual. The U.S. Attorney's Office will be putting out a release to give you specific information, statistical information, and that sort of thing. And what we can give you so far. As we said, it's an ongoing investigation, so there's really not too much we can say as to how the case was made or you know, what else is pending.
What exactly are the charges?
Well, planning a hoax device, there's a federal statute for that, and attempted bank robbery.
I did want to answer